Back on Inside Tennessee, breaking down the election. There's going to be a red wave. There's going to be a blue tsunami. Turns out the ocean was flat. We're back where we were.
We never said blue tsunami.
There's a little hyperbole there. Hopefully our viewers got that.
I thought it was a tide pool instead of a tidal wave.
Well, the reason I say that is because the more things change, the more they stay the same. And you could say that about this election. Why, John? Let's talk about two races in particular.
I think the red wave was only in Florida. Here, let's be candid. I think on Tuesday night we were like, well, there's not a whole lot that we need to really be paying attention to, except for District 18, which was Elaine Davis and Greg Kaplan, and District 90, which was incumbent Gloria Johnson and Dave Posey. So let's start with 18. We thought maybe that one was in play. It would have been a more interesting story if the Democrats had won both the seats or if the Republicans had won both those seats. But that's not what happened. Elaine was going for an open seat. It was Eddie Manis's seat. He was one term and done. She won it. I was not shocked. You look at the numbers and the voting patterns, and it basically held up. It happened.
Susan, you mentioned the makeup of that district on election night and later. Describe it for our viewers who haven't heard that conversation.
It definitely leans Republican, but there have been very close races in times past. Martin Daniel, Greg McKay, there were a couple of, there was like a couple hundred votes, I think. This one turned into a really interesting race toward the very end because of a mailer that the Republican Party sent out in that district. It was critical of Kaplan, and some people thought it was anti-Semitic, and so that, I think, got some more Democrats to the polls and would normally have gone and voted. But Elaine won. She won 5 or 6 points, which is what was predicted and what the polls showed. But nevertheless, there were some moderate Republicans that got upset about the mailing and went to Kaplan's side.
Don?
Right. It is really sort of a purple district, to overuse that phrase, but it wasn't purple enough to get Greg to win. It'll be interesting. Elaine worked very, very hard. She knocked on doors for months, and Greg Kaplan sort of came to that game late. Susan and I, we've talked before, and these smaller precinct type races, you really do have to get to knock on doors, not once, but 2 or 3 times, and talk to people. And I think that made a difference. Elaine's very controversial. She is very Trumpian. She will make up things sometimes about her opponent and issues that just don't bear out in fact. And so it'll be interesting to see if she stays there beyond 2 years. She's very controversial. It could be somebody primaries her and takes her out in the primary, or it could be a strong Democrat like Greg Kaplan, somebody else who come back and run and possibly beat her in a district like that.
Let's move to the other race you were talking about, John, setting it up. It's a new district, but really it's incumbent Gloria Johnson's district to lose.
That's right. She was going, I think this was like 3rd or 4th term for her. A little bit of that was split because she lost at one point to Eddie Smith. But this was an interesting race. You talk about strong personalities. Gloria Johnson is a strong personality. She's basically fearless. And there was some speculation with the legislature moving the lines around, if you will, on this district, changing it from the old 13 to this new, what they were calling 90. But she had no problem, basically.
They tried to hurt her, and they didn't do it.
And actually, when you looked at the numbers on election night, her margin was better in terms of this election than it had been in the past.
Susan, what do you make of that? Because we see, call it gerrymandering, call it redistricting. Reshaping of the districts is done with the census every 10 years. The people in charge of the legislature were, at this time, Republicans, got to do it. Clearly, they were trying to say, how can we work this in a way that we can retain this seat, if you will?
Yeah, but they would tell you that it still was about 4 to 5 points Democrat. I guess, if you remember, they initially looked at Sam McKenzie's district, and they ended up deciding to leave that one alone. And so
that brings them to court.
Well,
yeah, that's right. That's true.
Whatever reason, they left that alone and did change Gloria's district. But David Posey was a new candidate, hadn't been involved in politics necessarily in the past, was a realtor. I thought he ran a really good race. He knocked on doors 4 hours every single day, and he got a decent vote to be a new candidate in a new district.
Could see
so
him
kudos
again.
to him.
That'd
we could.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Don, we have 2 minutes left on this one.
Gloria is a great and outstanding politician, and what I mean by that is she knows how to win a race. She's won, she's lost, she's come back and won it back. She switched districts. Like John said, she is fearless. She is a voice for the progressive cause in this state. Say what you will about Tennessee being red, say what you will about Knox County being red, still 40%, 45%, and we can argue over that number, still identify themselves as Democrats or progressive values within the state. And it's a shame that we have a disproportionate number of Democrats in the House and in the Senate, and we really need to do a better job. I'm really happy Gloria's there. Stay loud, stay proud, and carry, do what you need to do.
We're going to look at some other national implications with the state of Tennessee making some movement at the congressional level that Susan said no one has mentioned, but you'll hear her talk about it on Inside Tennessee coming up a little bit later this morning.